welcome to Moms in Paradise podcast. My name is Sharika and I will be your drink mistress for today. While we're preparing the drinks, the other ladies will introduce themselves.
Hi, I'm Najila, assistant. For today.
Glenda. And Georgia.
Okay, and so today we're going to be making a honeydew melon basil Hugo spritz.
That's a mouthful.
It is a mouthful. The ingredients for this drink, as a drink with alcohol, it's elderberry, elderflower liquor, prosecco, sparkling water, basil, lemon, of course, honeydew melon juice, and basil. Did I say basil twice?
Yes, you did, but that's okay. But
Just making sure.
Basil is our main ingredient.
It's important.
And lemon.
Good for our health too.
True. So we're going to start by processing the basil, the honeydew melon. So
Make sure it's plugged in.
Oh.
Horrible assistant.
So the honeydew melon recipe calls for fresh honeydew melon juice.
Okay.
So this is,
Am I doing all of it?
you can do half.
So it's just honeydew and water?
Yes, honeydew and a little bit of water. And then we're gonna,
That's not even half. Is it?
no, you put some more.
Put some more.
Let's get this juice. Make sure everything that.
Great.
Okay.
That's good.
I mean, everything that was like 9. Yes.
I was like, is this a... What was your inspiration with this drink?
Okay, so I was on Instagram looking for a mocktail recipe, and I end up seeing this recipe on Kel's status,
Oh, okay.
and I was like, oh, this looks cute. So I went on the person's page, and I was like, okay, this looks like something doable.
Okay.
And then here we are.
Here we are. Yeah. So, once it's processed, then you go ahead and you strain it. We already have strained juice. 'Cause it took a while this morning.
Okay.
Straining juice.
Good thing we were prepared.
Yes. Okay. So first we need about some basil leaves and about a tablespoon of lemon juice, because we're making the mocktail right now.
That's the one for me.
Yes, that's the one for Georgette. And then we're gonna put in with that a teaspoon of sugar. No, that's liquor. It has liquor in it.
There you go. There you go.
Put that.
My bad.
Put out.
No, later I'm here slurring, wondering why am I slurring. Now we know why.
Go back to the video.
Right.
Najila wants to get her drunk.
Exactly.
It's all her fault.
Okay, and then we're gonna mash it. Would you like to do that? That's just mashing it. Yeah, mashing.
Elbow in it.
To bring out the flavor from the mint into the drink.
Basil.
The basil. What did I say?
Mint.
Mint.
Don't worry, I'm doing it. Just like that.
Alright. And while she's doing that, I'm gonna pour a half cup.
I'm not a good wife today.
I think that's good. I think that's good.
Wow. Did I give you that joke the last time, right?
Okay, so while you're pouring that, how was your week?
No, I was thinking about it to make sure I was prepared this week. Because, you know, this is like when somebody asks you a question, all of a sudden your brain goes blank and you can't think of it.
Yes.
So I was like thinking, how was my week? So when they ask me, I'm
We're gonna do that.
Just
We're gonna
for the
add
most
some
part.
ice.
Okay. But on Thursday, my daughter's school had a field trip, and I was a volunteer parent on the field trip, and I did that.
And we're gonna do a little bit of that, a little bit of both.
Good mom.
You were a
And
good mom.
I was part of the everything.
Okay.
And yours?
That was good.
Okay.
Long.
You don't fight nobody?
No.
That's good. So
I don't think I have it in me to just go around and just hit somebody. You know, you think it, you don't leave your intrusive thoughts act out. But you know how sometimes you
A little bit more.
like slap people in their head with a chair.
Yeah.
And
But
that's
you
why
don't
it's
do
perfect.
it. You don't do it because
we're gonna add
again, remember, me and
garnish.
khaki does not go.
Then we're gonna put
I am
this.
a very, you see, look at my colors. My colors are white and like black. Full khaki is going to.
So this is our drink.
Ooh, it looks pretty.
That's for you.
I just want to put this little detail with the circular of the melons.
Project make everybody start picking up.
So wait, I got the taste first. Everybody looking at me like,
Yeah.
yes, get it. Wait.
And then we're gonna.
4 hours.
It's refreshing.
It's
I
refreshing.
can definitely taste the basil, which
Great.
is a good sign.
That is
Okay.
good.
Right.
I mentioned I'm curious to taste it now.
You're curious. Okay, so we can continue. If you guys like. So these already have the ingredients in it. So just have to mash these, and then we're gonna add the prosecco and some of the.
How was are you though?
I had a chill week. I think it was very chill. I have a 16-year-old, so
You don't beat nobody, child. You don't have to.
there was no classes.
Oh,
I should keep on saying, I have a 16-year-old.
I have a
Like,
16-year-old.
Like, gets a pass of it doesn't
very
work for us once we have,
He's very chill.
Okay, so that's good. That's a blessing.
It is. It is. It really is. Yes. Yeah.
Were you that chill?
Yes. I think so. Glenda, ask Glenda.
I feel like this is not true.
It's like that, but at that point, we got good friends. I think a little bit older.
I was chill. I mean, I grew up by myself, so I had no choice but to be chill.
But else to come and say like, no, it's not true. So we gotta take you at your word. So if you say you are chill, then we
You know what I think
believe you.
She was quiet, but I don't know how chill she actually was.
But you know what they say about quiet.
Fine.
What?
See, but I don't
In
trust that
Dutch,
because I was quiet.
Stille waters
Yeah.
diepe gronden.
I don't know about that.
Waters run deep in English. I'm not sure.
I don't know about that.
Quiet don't mean good.
Glenda?
Being quiet does not mean good.
I love the fact
I didn't say that it's true.
from Glenda, like Glenda.
But Glenda was just saying she don't know.
We were quiet together.
Ooh, she brought you into this, and that means you weren't quiet either.
I was quiet.
No, I believe she was quiet. I just feel like all these thoughts underwater was very dark.
I think so too. Yes, they would act on their intrusive thoughts.
Yes.
So that's a good sign.
Again.
catch.
Oh, she didn't get catch.
Well, as we will proceed, can you put some prosecco?
Prosecco. Bubbles. I like bubbles.
Okay.
Yeah, put in the liquor.
Yeah, she's prepared it beforehand.
I think so. I think I did.
It tastes either which way, so I told you to come.
This drinking. This might need a next.
You might need a top up.
Yeah, might need a top up.
About time somebody else besides me needed a top up.
But she gave me mine first, so I have to drink it.
Here's a local port.
There's a fella.
Basil, behave. Okay. There you go. There you go.
I love the little circles, brother.
It's okay.
Completely in.
Yes.
It gives it that glittery look to the top.
Oh, there you go. Thank you.
Ready?
Mm-hmm.
Ooh.
Now that
Gone in.
has their drink, so I don't feel again.
Cheers. Let's see. Okay.
That is interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I like it.
I feel like it's gonna hit after.
It's very refreshing because
Interesting conversation, I know.
So we are gonna proceed to the couch, and we also have a guest today. So see you in a few.
In a few.
see in a bit.
Hi and welcome back. We've got our drinks. We've also have some guests here with us from the Vice Association. And welcome back to Moms in Paradise, where we swap stories, have drinks, and we're reminded that paradise is a mindset and not a place. Welcome. Can you introduce yourselves?
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for being here.
I'm Jacqueline Vrolick,
Okay.
and they call me Jackie.
Jackie. Okay, nice meeting you,
I'm
Jackie.
happy to be here.
Thank you.
Hi,
Hi.
I'm no stranger to you, but of course to the viewing audience, I am Jerlyn Isaac, and everyone knows me mainly by Lily.
Okay.
Yes.
So Vice is here because this month is Vitiligo Awareness Month, and we wanted to discuss about the topic and your initiative, and you as a mom and mom of a person who has vitiligo, what it has been like. So tell us about Vice.
Let's talk about Vice first. Oh no, let's talk about vitiligo first, and then we get to Vice.
Okay.
So you go ahead.
So, before, I would like to say I am the president of VICE, which stands for Vitiligo, Educate, Inspire, Support, St. Martin.
Okay.
My daughter, Miss Jerlyn Isaac, she's the founder.
Okay.
Yes. Vice was founded in 2021, but it started on the journey that we've been on for the past, 35 years now. And basically, at age 5, my mom discovered a spot that gradually got bigger, and when they diagnosed it, maybe 2 years later, it was called vitiligo. So vitiligo actually is when we all have melanin in our body.
Yeah.
That cell that produces the melanin is not working or is being actually attacked by the autoimmune system in our body. So it's seen as a bad guy, you know. And so what happens, your skin starts to get blotches and spots in white.
Yeah.
You know, so you lose your pigment. Yes.
Okay.
That's vitiligo.
Okay. And how?
Painful process?
Yeah, go ahead.
No, it's not a painful process. Some people do, though, in other cases, some cases that I've heard about, experience before the blotches comes on their skin, itching, yeah. Yes, but no painful process before getting it. However, if you're exposed too much to the sun, you get sunburn, and it's really, that's painful. The blisters, and that can be painful. Yes, it is.
You have to always protect your skin. And you know, we live in the Caribbean. We love going to the beach. But persons with vitiligo, they have to be particular what time they would venture out to the beach.
Okay.
Always use a good sunscreen with a high FPF, to protect your skin from the sun.
Okay.
Did you know, as mom, when did you know that your daughter had vitiligo?
Well, first of all, I didn't know the name. I didn't know what it was. You know, here in St. Martin, she was like a rare case. And like she said, I discovered because, you know, your only child, you're like a little mother hen. And she went on a field trip. She was at the early simulation at that time, or kindergarten, I would say. And she came home from the beach. We took them to the beach. And I noticed a spot. And I keep looking at, first it was like a scratch.
Yeah.
And you know, once you get a cut, it was still like white, but eventually your skin, your color will always come back. Yeah, and I noticed it healed, but this color stayed like white. And then I saw one in her face also. And I said, but something is not normal here. And you know, back in those days, in the 80s, I went to the doctor on the friend's side, and he said, I'll give you something to put on it, and if it doesn't, the color don't return, then maybe you have to go and see a specialist. And then there was no specialist here. So then I was referred to a specialist in Guadeloupe. So we traveled to Guadeloupe, and there's where they diagnosed that this is vitiligo, and it's something that you really can't do anything about it. And this is the thing with the doctors, the way they would talk to you, you know, you lose hope too, because if there's nothing can be done, you just gotta go back home with your child and live that life, you know.
Yes.
But then she goes to school, and having to go to school every day as a parent, I'm worried about her because she's spending long hours in school, and you're wondering how are the children treating her, you know? And it was very hard. It was hard, you know. And there were times maybe she did not want to go to school, but she didn't have a choice, you know. She had to get ready, get that uniform, and And she would come home, and every time, this one teased, that one teased. And especially, when school, the new school year starting, so the children that got used to her, they're okay with it, but then now we got new ones that coming in, so
Yeah.
there it goes, and constantly. And it was a journey for us. I had to put on private school, sacrifices, to have in a smaller setting where she could feel a little more comfortable, and children.
But how was that explanation in regards to, as being on an island where not much people are exposed to these type of awareness? So how was it to go to the teachers, the principal, to know? Because at the end of the day, children will be children. They are mean, and especially if they're not aware of things, and if people are different to them, they feel like, hey, you're different to me, so something's wrong with you.
So, also, you would go to the supermarket. Like I said, it was just us two. So wherever I go, she would be with me, and people would look at her funny. It would hurt, and some people would even, without thinking, they say, "Oh, you gonna burn up that child like that?"
Oh.
And I would like, "What? Burn up?" And it reached a point after I said, you know what, I'm going to leave her home with her dad and the nanny, and I will venture out just to avoid those type of things. But then, when you look back, I can say, when you don't know what something is, you tend to assume, but it's how you act at the end also, questions and so. So this is why, I would say I would let her go further into why Vice was created, But talking about the schools, the teachers, I would go to the school, parent night and thing, report, and they would say, teacher, she came home and, it hurt, and teacher said, but I can't do nothing, these children is the children and these children, and things like that. And I got to share this one. I think she was 9 or 8 years old. And I worked at La Romana, a fashion store. Maybe I wasn't born in those days, La Romana. And Miss Fleming, she was the principal at the MAC, Miss Josie Fleming. And she also was a client of mine at La Romana. And Jerlyn took it on herself at a little age, 8 years. And she went and she had a meeting with Miss Fleming in her office. Because she realized that the teachers cannot help me. I'm going straight to the head. I'm going to take it up to the head of management. Exactly. And she sat and she poured out her feelings, how she felt in school. And Miss Fleming told her, don't worry, I'm going to do something for you. And she really did.
Okay, hold on. But there's a reason why I got to that point to take that step. Because parents play a very integral part in their children's life, Not only the education, everything. And I saw what was happening in the household. So a lot of times we feel like, oh, mommy and daddy having problems, and the children don't see it because it only happens when the children are sleeping. But little do they know that body language, the tension, the children can feel it. And there wasn't a tension really between my parents, but it was a, what are we going to do, boy? What are we going to do? You could have felt the worry, and I didn't want to go to school every day. Every day was like, oh gosh, we're doing this again. But my mom and I, today I thank them for not letting me give up. And I said, I'm not going to tell her no more what's happening because I see it's stressing her. And she's worrying. And I went to look for whoever would listen to me, because the teachers too, and I'll say it, they were as compassionate as they knew how to be. But again, it's a time when everything is new in St. Martin in terms of this child changing color. What am I going to do? How do I deal with this? And the first question that was asked when they diagnosed it was, is it contagious? Because, other parents don't want to know, boy. And still, although we educated, no, it's not contagious. There was children saying, no, my mommy told me not to play with you. I can't play with you. But we sit in the classroom. So I put myself in a whole bubble to a point that I didn't even know who was my classmates at a certain point in time. So again, going back to what made me step out of the bubble and say, let me see who could help. So Miss Fleming helped, and then I let her continue and tell her how the help went on.
So Miss Fleming came to La Romana the afternoon, and she told me, she said, we have an assembly on Monday morning, and your daughter came to me and asked me to solve a situation at school and I would love for you to be there. She said, just come in and stay to the back and look at what's going to take place come Monday morning. So I arranged with management to be able to be off to go to the school. And I got to the school and the room was filled, with all the children. And there they took a chair and Miss Fleming called her up because she was short. And they put her on the chair to stand. And she was standing and I saw her open up confidence. I saw her knock down and sad, because Miss Fleming promised her she's going to take care of the situation. So for her, the way she stood on the chair, I can see that she already felt that everything was going to be in place after today, once Miss Fleming gave her a word. And so was it. Miss Fleming said, I'm going to present you all this little girl in school. And she went to, details how she feels at times, no one to play with her, and she was feeling so proud. And I stood to the back and the tears was just rolling down my face because I said, look at that. She stood up for herself and she went to the top. And if the top can't help her, well, maybe she's going to finish with school, but she went to the top. And I went back to my job. Oh, and I saw the children coming to her, hugging her, and want to show her that they're sorry because they didn't meant it like that. They thought that maybe it was something that is contagious, like we said. And sometimes two parents will say, don't play with that little girl, you're going to school, but stay far from her.
Yeah.
Because again, the lack of knowledge, of knowing
Yes.
information.
I like to say sometimes people just don't want to know the information. They just want to go with a narrative that they have in their head, and that is it. They don't want to go any further. Hey, what's the reason? Maybe let me
Educate themselves. Yeah.
Right.
And we live in the Caribbean. We live in the Caribbean that we have a lot of different stigmas and beliefs.
Yeah.
A lot of beliefs, those beliefs, because
I would say too, children are innocent.
yes.
Children don't see race, they don't see.
We make them see it.
They just see love.
Yeah.
And it's the parents, it's the adults, it's the problem.
Yep.
When you look at it really, because the children didn't know, they're just happy to be with each other.
Yes.
Anyway, she had a great Monday. It was the best day in the school.
Yes, it was.
And it was good for me because I went on my job and I shared with my co-workers and they said, is she something? She's amazing, she's so young and took things in her own hands and, And when we got home, she came home, she said, boy, Mommy, you wouldn't believe what happened in school this morning. Miss Fleming and I look at her and I like, yeah? Wow.
She didn't know what you were doing.
She didn't know, she had no clue.
I didn't know.
And when she finished, she said, boy, the children, they even shared his lunch with me. Yeah, they told me they're
Supportive.
sorry. They wanted to play with me. And then I turned to her and I said, I saw it. I was right there. And she said, you was there? I said, I saw you. You was on a chair standing. They put you on a chair. I said, I was so proud. I felt so happy. And then everything was good. But like I said again,
Changing
of the school year.
Yeah.
So here we go back again, new children coming in.
Yeah.
So it's like starting all over again. So then really I said, I really ought to take her. That's when I decided to take her from the
public.
public school. And then I place her in the Montessori. In the classroom it's like 15 children. And children from a different background too. But after a while, we couldn't continue with that. And once she got back her self-esteem, she told me she's ready to go back. So she went back, and then from there she went to the academy, started again too. So from there I ended up now putting on LU. So it was always, the challenge. But as a strong character that she has, she overcame.
Yeah.
And to me, she's the one that gave me the strength. A person would say, because of the mother, because of the parents, the family support, which is important, which is true. But you too have to be the one that wants to be, because we left her live a normal life. never cover up and say, oh, you can't go there, don't dress like this, do that.
Yeah.
We just live a normal life, and that also had, I must say, a lot to do with her feeling confident.
Yeah.
Because once you keep them down, and after a while, so we traveled to Cuba also. I must share a part. And the doctor in Cuba told me I did a good job with her because the way how, I let her live. And let her be
comfortable in her
because she was not born that way.
Yeah.
But it's part of life, and it's just how we're gonna move forward with it. We're gonna go with it negative, or we're gonna go with it positive. Yeah.
But the journey, of course, we're doing it like this, but the journey was
Difficult.
hard and difficult. And my parents, I credit them with a lot because they're middle class citizens. She was a store clerk. My dad is a taxi driver. Medical insurance doesn't cover any of these travels. And again, it's a new discovery. It's an autoimmune. So when you say autoimmune, it means to say they don't even know what's causing it, but they know it's happening because of the autoimmune not functioning the way it should. So it was challenging, for them, financially, emotionally, even physically, because once it's on your emotions, it plays on you. And what was happening, the reverse of that was, we were trying all these treatments, but because I'm stressed, nothing was working. So when we went to Cuba, Cuba was everything in life, and that's how I live. Everything in life that we pass through is because we have to go through it. And the worst things is for good. You can see that when you look back at it, and you can really be at peace with yourself with certain things. So Cuba today, and I say it proudly, it was a great experience, but it was a scheme because they have a lot of money scams. If you're so desperate for a cure, and they know that there's no cure, but you can go to the ends of the world for a cure, they will charge you. So the doctor in Cuba, what he said to my mom, and the medicine was made from the afterbirth, the placenta, and the makeup, they didn't know, they weren't aware. It's only placenta and alcohol. So imagine spraying that on a child. It's burning your eyes. If it gets in your eye, it burns your eye. It's a special scent. It's a special scent. And when you go to the clinic, at the clinic they have you under these UV lights. So it's basically like a rotisserie chicken. So they apply it, you wait, then you turn, and then they apply it again, and you turn. So that's consecutively more than an hour and a half going on for 1 week. That's the treatment, right? And you gotta come home. Yeah, you go ahead.
No, sorry. I was gonna ask, so this treatment that they had you on it was not actually a treatment.
Well, that's what they said. It's their treatment.
It wasn't going to work, or did they think that it was going to?
Well, they're still selling it and saying that it's working. But I can testify and say it doesn't work, and I'm not the only one that's saying it. And we have to be honest with people, with the desperation and with scams that are out there in the medical world. Yes, Cuba has very good doctors, but you can manipulate even the health system, the pharma industry is manipulating. You know how they get money? By having sick people. That's the way that they're gonna. Exactly, and that is an epidemic on its own. That people are so dependent on medication, and sometimes you're getting just a placebo. And you think it's working. You're being tricked. So that was the last treatment. We went, we went to Guadeloupe, and they did a topical cream, and it spread, and that topical cream burned my skin. It burned the skin. And after that, we went to Puerto Rico. No, we went to Puerto Rico because at that time, to go to Puerto Rico was really cheap, and it was like, everybody wanted to go to Puerto Rico. And then there they found another treatment, but they had side effects. So the side effects would potentially affect my reproduction organs. And it was in pill form. And so my parents said, no, they're not going to take that. And then we went to the Boston Children's Hospital. And the same thing that has to be ingested or anything like that. No, we're not doing that. Anything with so many side effects, I don't think it's, so Cuba popped up, went to just as my mom was to her breaking point, I would say. She was looking at the news, the French news, and they had a documentary on the Cuban medical industry. Now we're talking about Cuba. Cuba is, of course, communism.
Yeah.
So we are intrigued in what's happening in Cuba because it's like, this taboo is like, oh, what's going on there? But they did this documentary, and then they spoke about vitiligo, the only clinic in the world that is treating and curing vitiligo. And she saw it, and she got up and got to my dad and said, we're going to Cuba. Yeah, we're going to Cuba. Like it,
To visit Fidel Castro.
like it was 1, 2, 3. It wasn't 1, 2, 3. We had to write to be accepted to go in. You had to go through Curacao, overnight in Curacao, and then get to Cuba. And then when you go into Cuba, you're searched. And of course, everybody, they think you're a spy, a lot of military. But Cuba is a very beautiful country. We visited twice. So the first time was the introduction of the treatment. And then, of course, you have to do a follow-up. So the first year you go, and then they tell you have to follow up. So when we came back from Cuba, we had to come back with the medication.
Yeah.
So we're traveling with gallons, like big gallons of this liquid, thousands of dollars of this treatment. And when you get home, you have to do it 6 in the morning, apply it 6 in the morning before going to school, and it has to stay on during the day. And that's when we ask permission again to be allowed for me to wear long sleeves in this tropical climate, long sleeves. But the long sleeve wasn't the problem.
It was smell.
There was a smell. Because now you're no longer getting teased for looking different. You're getting teased for smelling fresh.
Yeah.
Really. So it's like you can't win here, eh? And so, again, I told you about the stresses when we're taking, I said this in a previous podcast, so when we're taking medicines, it's because we want to get better.
Yeah.
But even thinking about getting better adds a stress. So all of that, taking into account of what was going on, we went to Cuba. I had some pigment in my original pigment, and by the time the second year, I looked almost like this already. Yes. And then they told, because my parents were saying, well, we're not seeing any progress or whatever. And they said, it's a possibility when she hits puberty, it can reverse and it can change, and, but it all has to do with the stress level, more or less. So he did have certain key components that I can put together and say, okay, yeah. But I still don't believe that there's a cure. There's treatments, and why we say treatment is because a cure cures it.
Yeah.
A treatment is trials to figure out if it can work. And so when we returned from that second trip, this is when I'm like 13, I said, we're not doing this no more, Because vacation, I had no vacation. We had no vacation. At that time now, it's not only me as the only child. We have 2 children in the household. It's myself and my younger brother. And I felt like he's not getting the attention. I'm always, and even up to today, I'm somebody, I don't like spotlight. People don't know that I'm very much an introvert, extrovert person. If if I'm outside, when I'm outside, I'm outside. But when I'm inside, it's like, And I told them, I said, Mom, Dad, it's too much money. I'm tired of feeling like a test tube.
Yeah.
Everybody probing you. Because even here, they had doctors that would come up to them and say, bring her to me, let me check. So I was going like once a week to a lab to get sticks and take samples. And up to now, I don't know what they did with those things, but I had enough.
And every vacation would be medical vacation. So it's not a fun
to do.
And for
Yeah.
my brother too, he tagged along, you know. He probably want to go to Disney, but no, he's going to a doctor instead. And
It's been a
for me,
it's been a journey.
my thing was, and I think I shared it with someone this week, said that as a mother, you know, you want the best for your child. And I don't want that today or tomorrow, like we would say, she would say, well, mommy, how come we didn't try over there? You know,
Over here,
so I try to sacrifice, you know, we would say, vacation coming up, we're gonna go here now. And that night, looking at the news in Guadeloupe, which I still do, because that's how I know what's happening on St. Martin. I have to say that. Friend St. Martin, I right away jump up. I told her father, I said, Jeremy, listen, boy, look, we going Cuba, huh? That's a big trip. And it was possible. Thanks to my mom.
Yes.
Also always there, giving us that support. Encouragement. And that's what you need, the support from family. So
Important. Yeah.
And that support. So this conversation, imagine a 13-year-old telling a parent what they're not longer going to do. That support was granted. Because they didn't say, no. No, I don't want it. No, they were like,
I
okay.
respected her because I told myself, only she knows what she's feeling.
Yeah.
We're there, we're going along, but the person who's really in it, when they say, that's it, it doesn't matter the age or what, respect that, you know.
And
And then we too,
yeah.
it was like a weight was lifted off of all of us.
Yeah.
Because we started to live. We were just
Life.
existing
Yeah.
all the time. Because when it came to that treatment, you know, I would finish work at 6. And before she go to bed, I would make sure I am home to apply that treatment. And the treatment was, they had us so, I would say brainwashed. You have to start from the head. If you start from the head, you got to continue from the head, go down. If you start from the feet, come up, you got to keep it like that.
Yeah.
If you start
The
8 o'clock
routine.
at night, you got to keep it 8 o'clock and 8 o'clock in the morning. So after a while, it was like a military type of thing, a treatment,
no social life for them.
no social life.
Yeah.
Stress on her because she's expecting to see her color come back.
Yeah.
Bottles and gallons of this thing all over the house. And the scent was, you know, and I said, Lord, I couldn't wait for her to come home to get in the shower. Shower her quickly.
She could have a break
and
from.
put it right back on.
So today, you know, here we are. Happy to share with you all and to parents out there
Yeah.
who might be going through similar.
Yes, indeed. Well, we're gonna take a break. So we're gonna have a drink, and then we'll be back in a few.
Oh.
So we are back. We've topped up our drinks, and we would like to thank Vice for their cups that change colors once it's cold. Thank you so much.
Cheers to the Vitiligo Awareness Month.
Cheers. Yes. Thank you. So we are back, and we're going to talk a bit about Vice
Yes.
now. So what inspired Vice?
The journey.
The journey.
The journey inspired Vice. You're living now on the spectrum where you're comfortable with yourself and you're seeing more persons in the community with vitiligo, but you're still not addressing it.
Yeah.
So it's like living with something, but you're not addressing it because everybody wanna. But there's the web. And a day at work, I was working at Sonesta. I had returned from studying. I'm now a mother of he was then 8-year-old because it's 2016. He's 6 years old. And as a parent, you start to wonder because in Cuba again, they said, because that was my parents' question, is it, okay, we traced our whole lineage, they didn't find anything, but they wanted to know, okay, now that she has it in her makeup, can it be transferred to the children?
Yeah.
Is it hereditary? And they said, well, not really, but there's that 1% chance. And that 1% chance stuck with me, that my peers had children earlier, and I still had a fear. Although you're comfortable, you have a fear. So my mother fear was disappointing me as a child saying, oh, I didn't look for anything, I didn't help. And my fear was bringing a child into this world that would have to face what I face, you know, and but you have to have faith. And a lot of us take faith lightly. Faith is not a light thing, because we were just talking off camera about it. The things that I've been through, if I didn't have that support and that faith, I would not be here today to tell this testimony. And God is the glory. In all things, it's Him. So coming back to still having that fear, because you can have faith and still have fear.
Yes.
Okay? So I'm looking online, because now it's no longer in the 90s. We're in the 2000s. We should have more information. And I look up. My first time ever. Really? Because everything else is... I used to go to the library because I wanted to be a doctor too. And do medical, like, you know, go in the books. And seeing vitiligo on a medical standard is very draining and very gloomy and very, you know, textbook. And so found out, the first thing I found out is that we have a day. It's June 25th of every year. So that was the first thing I found out. And then after that, went on and found out they have conferences celebrating, or, you know, with medical doctors and people congregating. And it was 2016. So I said, okay, the next one would have been 2017, but we were hit with Irma. So I still said, no, 2018 was going to be in Boston. I have family that live in Boston. So I saved up. Out of a job, but I saved up. And out of the job, but looking at what is the requirements to go to the conference, they said, that conference, they wanted you to tell your story, where you come from. And that's how this logo was created. So the logo was created because my grandmother is the late Ruby Butte, my inspiration. And I'm an artist. Although I'm not the out there artist, I'm an artist, you know. And I said, no, the best way I know how to do this is through art. And we sat down, I sat down with her and I said, we're gonna do this. And she said, that's kind of cool. You know, are you young people? Are you young generation? Because I told her we're gonna do it like a cartoon, you know. So I met with this really great graphic designer, young creator by the name of Vibes XXM. Wesley, yes. Beautiful, beautiful soul. And I showed them pictures of me, because I go through the transitions. So I've transitioned a few times. When I say transition, so a quick thing about vitiligo, there is two main types of vitiligo. There's segmental and non-segmental. So segmental is where it would appear only on one side of your body and might not progress. And the other one is non-segmental, where it duplicates on both sides. So if you have it on your arm, both arms have it, and that can progress to what is called universal in rare cases. So I have universal. Universal is when it takes over your whole body. But what happens with me, I go from universal to non-segmental. So I've done that about 3 times in my life without treatment, because I stopped treatment at 13. And so I sat down with him and I showed him these pictures. And I said, I just want to transition. And I need St. Martin to be represented. So I said, what about putting St. Martin as a mark of the vitiligo? So we did the little girl, which is me as a little girl with vitiligo, and now the beautiful young lady with universal and vitiligo and St. Martin in the face. And I traveled to Boston.
The same hospital where we went to.
The same hospital that we went to.
First time that we traveled to.
Hosted that conference. So again, full circle, we coming back, right? And then with the Johns Hopkins University. And it was even when I say it now, I still, you know, it's meeting family that you never knew you had. So 500 persons with vitiligo showing up for that weekend. And as much as my family had supported me and my friends supported me, no one understood.
Together.
Yeah. So and then
Relate to
exactly. It's a different support. And so I returned, And if you know me, I like to share. I've always been, even as a child, I always like that. It could be my last, but I want to share it with, And I came back and I told her, I said, Mom, all of this information, besides the reunion, besides meeting these people, I feel like we need to share this. It's not about people feeling sympathetic towards me, because we're not looking, persons with vitiligo, we don't want the sympathy. We just want to be treated as equals, and be included and be visible. But so how are we gonna do this? I said in my mind, and she said, yeah, okay. Because I've gone back to work now, I'm working for a foundation, so I put it on the back burner. But the following year, I was celebrating 30 years with vitiligo, so I saved up and I surprised her for a trip to go. So instead of her taking me for a trip for medical, I'm taking her now on a trip.
This is mom life.
This is mom life. Don't, it's all good. I took her, so it felt again rewarding. And I'm taking her. But when she got to Texas, because that year was in Texas, she was blown away. Then she understood what needed to be done.
Yeah.
So we returned in 2021 because everything. COVID, and then a lot happening.
That period from 2027 to 2020.
That COVID, and then
I'd like to still, sorry, I'm going to say that the experience in Texas, what really stood out was seeing parents attending the conference with their children, also looking and searching for a cure. So it brought back that memory of my journey.
Yeah.
And to see that now in 2018, that there's so much information,
Yeah.
And in my time, I had no
Limited.
info.
Yeah.
And so I was there while she was having the conference in their room with medical and everything else. I would sit with some of the parents and I would encourage them, because some parents was like, some people just don't accept changes. They don't know how to go about it. Even though they come there, they heard about the conference, but still they're not, certain in themselves. And that also plays a role on the child, because sometimes the parents are the one that the children they're okay. But the parents are really worried because they already could foresee maybe how the future is going to be for that child, getting a job.
Yeah.
And which she'd been through all of that. Even in university, she was approached by professors that will give her negative, instead of telling her, you're going to be okay, they will tell her, I don't think you chose the right field to be in, because of, look at, so,
Wow.
yeah.
That was difficult.
hospitality management.
And
And what does that have to do with anything?
but
Well,
People are.
because you're the face,
Yeah. Presentation.
you're the front desk, you're the face. So in the hotel,
Also give
because
something.
she was doing the hospitality, and some of them was even telling her, why did you choose hospitality? Because you're gonna be up front. You should be in the back, in the office, in the back.
There might be someone comes into there and know that, hey, there's someone like me
here.
They are so I can do it too.
Exactly.
So for me, like I said, and like she just said, we would love for persons to be treated equally.
Yes.
Because at the end of the day, it's not about the outer part, it's about the heart of the person. You have to look beyond that, and this is where our motto was created. We sat down together and she told me, she said, I found my tribe, this is what I'm gonna do. And she's the type, when she said this is what she's gonna do, I just gotta get in gear back. I gotta make it happen.
We gotta make it happen.
And then she said, when I see myself, I don't see, people shouldn't see my color, whether it's changing or not. They should see my heart, they should see the loving person that I am.
Yes.
That you raised me to be.
Yes.
Because our children are reflections of us.
Yes.
So right there and then, the mother came up. I do not see color because it was about her. I do not see color, I see love. Now today, Vice is created and we've changed the I, because not I in team.
Yes.
It's us, it's we. So we do not see color, we see love.
Awesome. Awesome.
Thank you. Cheers to that.
As our
Cheers.
cups turn purple.
It's doing the vitiligo thing.
And how has your experience as a mom?
Oh, so yes, I became a mom. I became a mom at 26. How was that experience? Great.
Okay.
Personally, again, the fear. We were talking about the fear. At the time, I was dating someone that knew me from the time I was a teenager. And he said to me, "Girl, you're such a dynamic woman. What are you talking about?" I was like, "All right." So, you're planning and you're happy.
Yeah.
You're in love.
Yeah.
And you create a baby. And somewhere in the pregnancy, the relationship ends.
Yeah.
At 6 months being pregnant and alone.
Yeah.
That
Fair? Was it fair?
I don't know. I can't say. I don't think it was fair. I don't think it was fair. It just wasn't working out. It wasn't working out. It was surprising. It was unexpected.
Yeah.
But again, I had to figure it out and say, you know what? You're strong enough. You're gonna deal with this. And so I became a mom, a single parent. At this time, I have no non-segmental vitiligo. So I like to joke because I can do it. I can joke and say I had the face of, for those that know, X-Men, Magneto. You see the Magneto mask? Yeah. My own was like the Magneto mask. I joke about it, yes, because it's me. I can do that. And so that added the stress. You now have to. You're
Several things to deal with at the same time.
Yeah.
And are you going to have a baby?
You're gonna have a baby.
How?
If he's going to have it.
Yeah.
Because that's still that one.
That's still that.
And then you have to bring him around, and then people might tease him because of his mom.
So all of that.
And
then the other thing, you're in the Caribbean and you bringing forth a child and you're married, and then you come from the Sutton family, because my family, everybody know my family, and my grandmother was like, well, my grandmother, she was surprised that I was pregnant. Big 26. She was surprised, and she had a reason for that. We had a very strong bond, and I'm a free spirit at heart. So is she. So normally, when you have free spiriters, you wait a while before you, settle down and have children. So for her, it was like, my little butterfly. And she said to me, my little butterfly, gone and do that? Are you clipping your wings? And then clipping your wings, and then you're not getting married? Yeah. So I said to her, and this is now, we're going to talk about generations. I said, when you got married, you were forced to do that because it was the right thing to do. Yeah. There was a thing to do, I said, but here we are, how modern and how we have grown, that I have the choice to say, no, I don't want to get married yet. And not make it feel like a shame.
Yeah.
And that the shame comes when you're left alone to bear by yourself, to go through this by yourself. And she said to me, you're right, but you have our support. So that made it easy. So then Jalen was born on the 14th of April. Beautiful boy. Up to today, he's 15 and he's still so handsome now. It's the teenagers now. And having fun. He doesn't have vitiligo. But he doesn't have vitiligo, but again, like you say, his mom has vitiligo. Yeah. And he's seen me change from the Magneto to this now. But my mom stepped up. Because I was a single parent, I had to be very active, working, and she took care of him. And what she does is show him pictures of me from a child to now. And she started to do that education. So this education part started before we went to the first conference. So by the time I formed Vice, my son was ready. He knew everything. No. Yes, and
Mama did what mama had to do.
yes, but
So that
He would share in school. Yeah.
He's now confident. He knows who his mother is.
Is.
Anybody come tell him anything, he will
Yeah.
defend him.
yes.
He would explain his
And he doesn't
friends in school.
And he doesn't play about his mother. In school, they now says, "Why your mommy so white?" He said, "Boy, mom, some days I just have the patience to explain them, and some days I just tell them, I guess my father black." and you know, he has that. You know, it takes two to make a child. He has both of our personalities, so it's a great combination.
Nice blend.
Nice blend, yes. And then 2 years ago, I became a mother again. So after 13 years, yes, decided to go back in 40s. Who sent me?
It wasn't me.
Yes, but it's a different story. This time I have a supportive partner in my life. My grandmother still is like, with the ring. But we don't need the titles and the, huh?
Did they come back when you got pregnant the second time, or were you just
No.
like whatever happened?
There's no fear. There's no fear. There's no fear. Again, leading with God.
Yeah.
Leading with faith. There's no more fear. And if vitiligo can happen to you at any age, at any stage. So my children know, Jalen knows that. Amira will know that too. And even we've seen cases where it would skip a generation.
Oh, okay.
So they will be educated in that. No, until it happens.
Or whether it doesn't happen, and you just
Yeah, but they're prepared,
Yeah.
you know, and that's the most important thing, that they're prepared.
Yes, it has been.
Yes.
We would like to say thank you once again, you and Mom,
Yes.
for your joining us, for
My
your
partner in crime.
experience, for educating the public on vitiligo and your association. And just to see that you're thriving as mom and grandma and the children.
Yes.
You know?
One question before we round up. Because vitiligo comes and it goes, or it can
Mine.
to the parents that has a child that they see the pigmentation leaving and they're not quite sure, what advice would you give them, just as strength, because you've gone through this and you've been the mom that has to experience, what advice would you give them on how to venture or support?
Okay. First of all, I would like to say in our journey, a lot of parents would come up to me and say, I think my child has the same thing that your daughter has. And I would always say to them, you know, sometimes things look like it's the same thing. But the only way to find out is to, you know, have an appointment with a dermatologist and get
Confirm.
information, confirm, be sure. And no matter what, love your child the same.
Yes.
Because it's that love, that education that you get from home, that you can leave the house feeling confident, knowing who you are. So it's so important to tell your child you're beautiful.
Yeah.
Positive
You can do all
affirmation.
things, you can accomplish all things. No matter what, you know, look beyond.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're proud of yourself.
Yes.
I would like to say that before ending, how we took Vice into the schools. And we've been educating children on both sides of the highway. She created, as an artist, she created a special worksheet, which is English and French. So we go in and we spend time with them and we teach them about love, about empathy, the bullying, you know, it plays a role.
Yeah.
So, yeah, this is what we're
If
doing.
people wanted to reach out to you, what could they do?
They can follow us on Facebook and Instagram. It's the full word. It's worthy. It's Vitiligo, Educate, Inspire, Support. Because St. Martin, they can follow us on there. Yeah, it's worthy because we wanted to introduce vitiligo, educate, go back into the schools. So when she says give back to the community, inspire our community, inspire those living with vitiligo to live. Because when you start to live, and even if you don't have vitiligo, when you have a difference, all of us are different. But when we have physical or, you know, apparent differences, we tend to close in ourselves. And when we start to live, it's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful journey. So, and the support, we need support. Even your strongest friends need support. Yes. And
This is Vice's year of
of support, 2025. Yes.
That's nice.
Sorry, I interrupted you.
You know, it's so much we can say,
Say.
so much we can share.
Yeah.
And we never get tired sharing.
No.
And yeah, Vice is there for everyone, not only for persons with vitiligo, but for persons who know of someone, family members,
Allies.
allies want information, you know. So we're here for that.
We
On all social media platforms. So
Instagram and Facebook, yeah. And we touch a little bit about dating. Well, or we didn't do dating. We did children. But you have to date before you get to children. How was dating?
And also with your
Partners.
you know.
Yeah. So my early stage of dating. I'm not gonna tell you what age of dating. Early stage of dating, I didn't know where I was. And when you don't know who you are, as much as you're confident in yourself, you don't know who you are, you gravitate to the attention because somebody find I'm so beautiful. Although you're telling yourself you're beautiful, you know you're beautiful, but that other person telling you that, you're feeling like, yeah, you're all out in a bag of chips. But that was a bad way because I was still fighting with low self-esteem. I suffered with depression up until age 26, to be honest. When my son came into my life, another clicked on.
Yeah.
You know, another switch. So at 13, the switch clicked that this is enough and you're going to accept yourself. At 26, it was, this is enough. You got to pull up your shoes, your socks. You're going to be taking care of this child. You don't have time to be depressed. That doesn't work. And
It's a real thing.
it's a real thing.
Yes.
But dating can be tricky. Relationships can be tricky because I identify as a Black woman, a Black Caribbean queen, and I've been cheated on in relationships by men, Caribbean men, they like that. And sometimes I would sit back and say, maybe because of my color. Maybe I'm not so beautiful. I love to see Black women. I love to see the different shades of dark-skinned women. And I'm like, so you do have those kind of things that you play with mentally. So vitiligo doesn't only physically affect you, but the mentally, the daily living with it. You say, some days it's okay to get up and say, I don't feel so pretty today.
It is.
It's human. But I struggled with that a lot. So
I think some of us still in this point and struggle with that moment where we're like, oh, today I'm fat.
Yeah.
Or today I don't feel like my eyes.
Yeah.
And then,
So once again, thank you. We thank you for joining us. We really appreciate that you took the time in and that we could educate others regarding vitiligo and your association. So we are going to say goodbye. And we remind you to please subscribe, like, and share. We are on all platforms, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at Moms in Paradise Podcast. So see you soon. Bye.